welcome to another episode of The Diplomat, brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com. And the second part of our interview with Ewok, who finished in second place in the Nexus Season 7 finals game. This is where we left off in winter 1904. So let's have a look what came next, which presumably is spring 1905. And a lot of German movement eastwards, but I don't know, Irish Sea to Wales looks a little sneaky to me.
Not intended to be sneaky, it's intended to be precautious. We spent this round talking a lot about how things were going to go. I imagine at this point, Ed is probably really weighing his options, whether he wants to attack me or attack Russia, because I'm incredibly vulnerable here, and he really could have hurt me. And I told him straight up, I'm not ready to start moving on Italy as you would have liked to happen. I need to make sure my house is in order before I do anything else. And he's nervous about that because he doesn't want me advancing on him. He does tell me he's going to give me back Belgium because he's beyond our threshold of what we were looking to have, that two center difference. And he is about to get St. Petersburg, so I want to make sure I get Belgium. I want to make sure I get Edinburgh so that I can feel safe enough to be his neighbor. So yeah, it was a very
to go straight into Belgium and Edinburgh this time.
Yeah, because I didn't know for sure that he could have bounced me. He could have cut Burgundy. He could have. There's lots of things he could have done, and I didn't want to be in a position where I couldn't keep pushing forward. I need to get some armies back home because I felt very exposed. So I just wanted to make sure I got them on the ground, and just in case he didn't do as he promised me, I could at least defend myself.
Did he address the fact that you were positioning to guarantee them in the fall rather than going straight there? Or was he?
Yeah, I mean, I told him I wasn't going to tell him exactly what I was doing, and he, took it on faith that it wouldn't be too aggressive. I did take the most extreme aggressiveness just to make sure, not intended to be aggressive, but to make sure that I get what I'm promised. So yeah, there was a little bit of head tilt on that, but in the end, it was something we could work with. I think
I was looking at these and thinking, if Germany's sending everything east,
yeah,
the dots that you were getting from Ed seemed, to my relatively inexperienced eyes, more holdable, more easily holdable than what he was likely to pick up in the east. Like Budapest, he's going to lose. And it's not guaranteed that he's going to be able to get like Warsaw, Moscow before you perhaps decide you want to rear-end him.
I mean, he's got a lot of, him being able to get Moscow, being able to get Warsaw, being able to get St. Petersburg, those aren't that difficult to get, especially with Italy and Turkey kind of back and forth, busy with each other. So he's got a lot of free movement to quickly thin out Russia and take the rest of him. Mm-hmm. So that's appealing to him. He wants to get that corner. He wants to be able to have something he can push off. And at this point, I'm promising a lot. Yeah, I'm going to go towards Italy as soon as I have my ducks in a row. And I think the best thing for Ed would have been to get all of Russia. He has those 3 fleets now. And if he starts pushing me to send some fleets south, I'm going to get somewhat exposed in the north. So that's something that he can work with in the end game. So I think that's what he was probably pushing towards.
I guess you were quite happy to see him thwarted in Romania.
Yes, yeah. That's good for me. I'm still trying to play alliance play here, so I do want our alliance to do well enough, and for him to have things in the east that he can keep looking towards and focus his attention to. I don't want to make any real moves until 1907, so I want to have a successful alliance that is knocking out people that are going to be competition for me. So yes and no, but yeah, this is pretty fine for me. I'm just happy that he's attacking Russia and not me.
Yeah.
As an experienced player playing in a tournament game that's operating at a very high level, what did you think sitting there watching Ed? You know, Germany sending a unit down into the south to destabilize the other powers and to interfere with coalition building and tempo. That's pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
But by this point, it's very clear that Ed is doing a lot more screwing around in the south and the east than you normally see. And what kind of emotional response to seeing Ed playing down here, taking shots at Romania in 1905, both emotionally and intellectually? What was your response to seeing that going on?
I mean, I'm impressed by Ed's play. He did a lot of things. He was helping, you know, he's helping. He spent most of this game in the lead position, the board top for most of the game. And for most of the game, people are mucking around with other people. They're attacking Turkey, they're attacking Russia, they're attacking whoever else. And he's doing that by making himself useful in these campaigns in the East. And, you know, Turkey's happy with him. Italy's happy with him. So it's diplomatically, he's killing it.
In retrospect, this is a two-part question. I kind of set you up for this.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, do you regret letting him get away with this by playing so passively?
Not this stage. No. This is exactly how I wanted things to play. I'm happy to see him in the East. I think that's another reason why people didn't freak out too much about him, because a lot of his positions looked like they weren't holdable, and they weren't worried about him in Budapest because somebody could snipe that at any moment if he gets too big. A lot of Russia, you know, it looks like he's got a house of straw, but he doesn't really. He's got all these relationships that are helping keep these things going for longer and longer, and he's got the ability to, if he loses something, get something else in return. But for me, I still don't want to be the guy that, you know, as France, the guy who's got a pretty stable position and is, you know, the reigning champion. I knew I would get too much attention before I was ready for it. So I didn't really think there was a lot else I could do.
So you think if you'd gone after Ed here in 1905, 1906, when I think this is an opportunity where you had to open a front against him and press it in a way that he probably wouldn't be able to recover from, you feel pretty confident that if you had done that at this point in the game, 1905, 1906, you think you would have ended up having to fight against an Ed Sullivan, Matt Krill alliance?
I mean, 1905, I just didn't have the manpower to do any of that stuff. I am spread out. I am weak. Ed is bigger than me. Ed can fight back very capably. There was really not a play for me yet. I think if I was going to do that, it would have been in the coming years. And by that time, then there was other threats that needed to be dealt with. That if I did attack Ed, I just would have ossified in a battle with him, and other people would have gone around picking up low-hanging fruit and strolled to a victory.
Okay.
Here's the fall.
At this stage, I'm still growing diplomatically, so I'm not unhappy with that position.
Yeah, so you're picking up Warsaw and St. Petersburg and Vienna.
Yeah, so this was another moment when Ed wasn't very forthright with me, because he didn't tell me that, you know, I'm still unhappy that we have a 3-center difference here, and he's picking up another 3 to make up for, you know, the couple I take off him. So he's still at a very serious head start over me, and we're not getting that position where we can make up that difference for him to be able to. I'm still waiting for him to get rid of one of these fleets, because if he wants me to go south against Italy, I need him to not have 3 fleets in the north. And the deal was, as soon as he's got an opportunity to get rid of a fleet, he does that.
Oh, to actively disband, I mean.
Actively disband, yeah. I wanted him to actively disband that extra fleet so that I could send something south. As far as I understood,
going to disband on that turn, was he? Even if he didn't get Vienna, he's level.
No, he wouldn't have disbanded on this turn, but we're trying to work towards that. And here he is getting more builds. I did not realize that he was taking out Karthik here. As far as I knew, he and Karthik were going to hold back Matt as long as possible, and then I could build in a way that I could start getting involved with that. But here he is giving, Matt all the room in the world to, not feel threatened.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have really been all that different, would it? I mean, I think him having that level of cooperation with Matt Krill would have been more concerning than him getting that Vienna dot, because in a lot of ways, Ed taking that Vienna dot actually made his position weaker, because that's why he got a build, because he got Warsaw, St. Pete, and Vienna, losing London and Belgium, so he's getting a build. But if he'd done the other way, if he had kept Karthik in the game and attacked Matt Krill, then he wouldn't have gotten a build, but that Austrian unit would have de facto been an additional German unit in the south. I don't think it would have changed things that much.
No.
When this season happened, I expected to see him drop another fleet.
Yeah, and that's what Matt was hoping as well. The psychology here was, I was hoping at this point I could start looking to Matt as possibly an ally that I could start working against Ed Ford down the road. And he, in my opinion, this was a hostile act. This was anti-French. Him putting Germany into Vienna, he was hoping he would build a fleet, and that would get me and Ed fighting, and that would allow him to swoop down into the south and have nobody fighting against him. What really happened
you built Fleet Marseille because Matt supported Ed into Vienna.
It changed the dynamic of the board completely, because really Matt is going to get Vienna and Budapest, so he's automatically at 10. And that's something that I'm not going to be able to quickly catch up against with Ed. And I'm the worst seed, so I need to be one above him. So I need to be actually at 11, and I just didn't see any way for me to get there. Matt was going to keep growing off of Turkey once he got built, or he'd be able to attack me if I was, in this tug of war with Ed in the north. So he made it so that I was prepared to start looking at Ed at this point, and he made it so that was impossible. I think that was a sucker's move to pull Ed into Vienna. Ed saw the risk as well of Matt, and that caused him to build the army rather than the fleet and commit to a war against me. This just made it so me and Ed had no choice but to refocus our attention towards Matt. I think this is the wrong thing for
So at this point, are you planning on sending both of those fleets south?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to send 2 down for now. If I have to, I'm going to send a 3rd down. I'd like to try to work out something with Matt. I start talking to him. I start telling him why I did this, what my concerns are, what it's going to take for that to not be a concern anymore. I start encouraging him to just give John a center somewhere so you don't look so scary, and he's a little bit more of a gatekeeper on you.
Reaching the point of the game now where there's a lot of pussyfooting around the North Sea. Now, do you have an agreement over it at this point? Because you've got 3 on it and he's got 2 on it. He's got 1 on it. So you can take North Sea here.
I can. And I believe this is probably where I do. So the thing here is I'm not looking to be aggressive, or at least that's not the core intent. But if he wants me to engage fully in a war against Italy, I have to send a 3rd fleet down there, because Italy's got a lot of fleets. so I need to get the balance in the north where it's something that I can properly defend. So, and Ed sees this, and he says, oh, late in the round, he's like, okay, take North Sea if you have to. I'm like, okay, I do think I have to. I think if I don't, you can have a lot of power on me, and that's not something I can sustain, and I won't feel comfortable going south. So yes, I need to take North Sea. At the very, very last minute, he freaks out and changes his mind that he doesn't want me to go. And tell him it's too late. I have to. It's just the right thing to do. But if you do, I will, contribute more in the south, and we can make a proper go of attacking Italy. So all these things are moves that are arranged. My expectation is that he's going to send some units down to help me against Italy, and we can make that a proper campaign. But instead, he starts sending more and more my way. I wasn't expecting Belgium to go to Kiel. He's promising me, if he gets a build off of Moscow, that I'll be able to get Holland, and that's a bluff here. He's just trying to.
He goes to cover it, but then he could have taken Norwegian Sea here, and
we agreed to bounce. Yeah, we agreed to bounce. Where it's a balancing act of, I'm self-advocating, but I'm not aggressive, and let's keep this going for as long as possible so that we can do other things. And position, and it's a whole lot of stances against each other that are kind of aggressive, but not really.
I'm assuming Burgundy's arranged here, yeah?
Yep, Burgundy was arranged.
But not Berlin to Kiel.
Sorry, not which?
Not Berlin to Kiel.
No, Berlin to Kiel, yeah. As far as I knew, that was going into the east.
Was there any communication at this point in the game between you and Matt about cooperating against Munich?
Not against Munich. So I mentioned this before. The problem with me and Matt is he was telling a lot of things to Ed every conversation we had. So I had difficulty trusting that I could have a discrete conversation with him. Up until now, I'd just been ignoring it. I did have a conversation with Matt, like, hey, this is happening. I know you're telling Ed everything. He tells me everything you tell him. If we're ever going to have a chance to work together, you need to stop doing that. And then the next thing I know, Ed's telling me, it's like, so Matt says that I'm telling you too much. I guess I can't trust Matt anymore. So it handcuffs me a bit for what I'm able to set up. I thought for sure that the end game would have been me and Matt versus Ed, but for this next little while, when I'm not quite ready to make a big play on Ed, I have to watch what I say. So it made things harder than I thought it would have been.
You don't think that building a fleet in Marseille made the possibility of you and Matt versus Ed basically impossible?
I explained to Matt why I had to do that. I did think I had to do that. I think if I didn't, this game would have been won by Matt. I had to, much like he did earlier in the game when he put rocks in my backpack, I had to do the same to him just for the sake of slowing down tempo. There's really no growth for me to be had against Italy in this scenario where it's just me versus him with a giant Germany beside me. I would need a lot of manpower just to get Tunisia, let alone anything else. So I didn't intend to go down there with a desire of eating up Italy. I wanted to, slow him down, work diplomatically that he's no longer this obvious win, and then work out an arrangement for me and him to attack Ed. That was my hope.
Were you aware during the game just how closely Turkey and Italy were working with one another?
No, I had no idea they were choreographing a lot of things at this stage. That was the other part of this thing, because at this point, John was very vocally saying, you need to come down here. You need to deal with Italy. He's going to win this. If you don't, I'm not going to throw it at him, but I'm not going to try that hard. I'm this 4-center Turkey that's probably going to die if nothing happens. So if you guys don't come down here, I'm just going to go to bed and let him take all my centers. So that was the big influence as well. Little did we know he was playing both sides at this time. So he, choreographing with Matt while trying to force us to come attack Matt and pull the attention away.
You said playing both sides, but let's take inventory of the eastern half of the board real quick. Okay. Mm-hmm. Ed first worked with Russia, then worked with Austria, then worked with Italy, and now is working with Turkey. All in less than a 2-year span. I would think that a good diplomatic ploy at this point in the game would have been a good group conversation with the East, with a very simple message of, well, for instance, 1946 American presidential campaign. Harry S. Truman had been he refused to revoke the war powers that had been granted to him by Congress. And in 1946, the entire presidential campaign against Truman was "had enough." That was literally the Republican campaign slogan in 1946. Had enough. With Ed having jerked off, literally jerked off all 4 of the Eastern powers in a less than 2-year span, and sitting there with 3 dots for his trouble, I would think that there could have been the possibility here of a unified group chat with Italy, Turkey, Russia, France, and the message would have been simple: are you sick of Ed's shit yet?
He has a way.
Did any conversation like that happen at all?
Not really. No. So when you look at the board right now, the numbers are very deceiving because really it's Italy at 10, Germany at going down 2 up 1, so 9, me at 9, Turkey at 4. We're all pretty neck and neck. So what everybody's priorities at this point is just I want to keep the door open for my win. I don't care about if somebody's playing poorly or deceitfully, or I'm not getting hard feelings. I want my win to still be open. And one person in this that stands out is Turkey, who does not have that door right now. So he's a wild card. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to throw his weight around and threaten to kingmake, it has some credibility. If he wants to just be a wild card, that's a factor as well. We don't know what he's going to do, but the rest of us, we're all trying to just keep that door open. We don't want to, ideally, we don't have 2 people attacking each other while the third person is, picking up Turkey or positioning against somebody else. So that's why you start seeing a lot more of this 3-way dance going on now, this 3-way standoff. There's a lot of little moves for the next little while. So no, you don't get a lot of this, let's stop the leader, it's less of that. The 3-way talk that actually happened here was Turkey, Germany, and me, looking at Italy, who does have that potential to run away with it in a way that we wouldn't be able to necessarily break through if we were fighting each other.
Were you pleased to see Ed get knocked out of Vienna because he then might react against Italy, or was this just inevitable and Ed was okay with it? Or
I'm sure
the last thing Greg wanted to see here was Italian builds, man. That's the last thing Greg wanted to see, Chris.
Well, it's okay if Germany is prompted to attack Italy, but I don't know whether he's minded to do that. Was it understood between Ed and Matt that Vienna and Budapest were essentially on loan, or is this a proper attack on Germany by Italy?
Yeah, I'm sure it was understood, and if it wasn't, as soon as Ed didn't build a fleet in Berlin to attack me, that just assured it.
Did you try and turn Ed's units around facing Italy instead of you, as they seem to be?
Yeah, that's what he was absolutely. That's what I expected him to do. That's what I was disappointed that he didn't.
Well, if he'd have done that, you'd have won this game.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he's still not doing it. I mean, he had to go at Romania, but he knows that's not going to happen. Wouldn't have happened even had Sevastopol had supported it. But he is getting Moscow. But he's going down 1. Oh no, he's not, because he doesn't have a disband because Budapest is blown up. So he can't pull a fleet, but he is going down a dot.
Yeah, this is that game that keeps happening here. I'm waiting for promises for him to, if you're not going to if you're going to lose Budapest, why don't you move out of Gal to Bohemia so that you can retreat to Galicia and we can get rid of that fleet. And he conveniently doesn't do that. We would have had a better front line if he was armies along, Munich, Bohemia, Galicia. But this is we're starting to play games here just so we're positioning for a late game push.
So Italy has 2 builds here. We pick up Romania, Budapest, Vienna, but cede Bulgaria. Well, I don't know if it was. I can't have that conversation with Matt now. But it was ceded, but he was supposed to go East Coast. But John goes Bulgaria, South Coast. And this is going to be a bit of a stalemate situation soon if you guys aren't careful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm having a lot of conversations with Matt about let's stop this. Let's start looking at Ed here, but it's not really going anywhere. And I'm still kind of biting my tongue how much I'm saying about this because me and Ed are still kind of in an alliance. So I don't want anything slipping back to Ed. And I know that Matt's the type that will, if he has something that he can use as ammo to get us fighting, that's the thing he wants most. He wants me and Germany fighting. He'll pass that along in a heartbeat. So I have to watch what I say.
What did you say to get him to build that stupid fleet in Naples
instead of Rome?
I gave him hope that I'm going to go attack Ed, and this is the start of it. But you not be in Rome for that to happen. And
what was Matt Curl's response when you promised him that you were going to use a fleet in Gulf of Leon to attack Germany?
Well, I mean, I said I would send Mid-Atlantic up, and we could work together to do things. There's only really 2 times that I lied to Matt in this game. It's when I built that fleet in Marseille, and it's here when I tried to make a move on Tunisia. In the next round. Those were the 2 big lies I told to Matt. I didn't see a situation here where it made sense for me to blatantly attack Ed yet. He's still promising me, you can have Holland, you've got to have Holland. And I just want to have that extra unit. If I had that extra unit, I would have a lot more power in this game to make some moves. So I was very
surprised. I was very surprised here with Ed in Barents in Norway and Denmark that you had taken your fleet in English Channel and A, brought it down to Mayo, and B, we're now trying to shove it all the way down into North Africa. This could have been disaster for you if he had put 2 on North Sea and brought Barents to Norwegian, which he should have done because a fleet in St. Petersburg at this point is utterly worthless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while he did that, you had been successful getting into North Africa, but leaving yourself in a position not able to even force Tunis. This could have been the end of your game.
My assumption is I could have forced Tunis because I was believing that John was with us. We were doing 3-way chats every night, and I was duped. I thought John was completely on board with the 3 of us. Really, he's just playing a wild card at this point. So I thought I could have if I would have gone into North Africa, but if not, I was happy to be in Mid-Atlantic so I can swing back if I need to. I think Ed didn't want to be too aggressive yet because he also wanted to neutralize Matt so that he wasn't going to be a threat to his win. Because Matt had the seeding advantage.
Well done, by the way, for tagging the board and not losing a center. It's good to see.
Thank you.
There was a lot of speculation here if you were putting V for victory or V for village idiot. What were you doing here?
Oh, it's my V for village idiot. Yeah, that's my shtick. I saw on Captain Meme analysis of this game. There's a lot of criticism about how well my V came out. It looks more like a Y.
Well, I mean, I imagine Matt isn't overly happy with MAO to North Africa, but did you try and sell that as, oh, I was merely doing the I for idiot?
No, I came clean. I had to try. I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but I definitely had to try.
Yeah, you just play that off as a keeping you honest thing. That's all you do there.
Yep.
But of course, now Ed has 3 on North Sea. Hasn't let you take Holland. Were you supposed to get Holland?
Yeah, I was supposed to get Holland here. He was promising that to me because he was supposed to be getting Romania and Serbia. This is really where John's plan worked out perfectly, and Ed got a little bit suckered here. He thought he would be getting a bunch of builds that would make Stab on Me incredibly fruitful. So he betrayed me in Holland. He attacked North Sea. He advanced to Norway, and then he ended up losing Romania and not getting Serbia for his trouble. Again, we had a lot of negotiations here. My preference was, okay, either you hold in Romania, you make sure you can hold Romania, or just pull it out, go to Galicia, give it to John. I don't know why this was supposed to be going to Ed anyways. It made more sense for John to have it so that he could have more firepower in the south, or he would have made sure that he could get into Greece or something. This was just a lot of nonsense. For the days leading up to this round and the round before, the conversations between the 3 of us were a lot of, hey, let's talk about a lot of nonsense for hours on end. And then when it's time to start talking about strategy, oh, it's so late, we got to go. Sorry, man. Let's talk about this first thing tomorrow morning. And then that would never happen, or we get thrown together. And, it's just a lot of, wasting time. Pretty obvious that something was probably about to go down. And, it ended up Ed stabbing me for all intents and purposes, and Matt stabbing Ed.
Well, did Matt stab Ed, or did John stab Ed?
Sorry, John stabbing.
So Ed really thought he was getting Romania and Serbia here? Yeah. So he thought he was getting Romania and Serbia here, and has stabbing you by not giving up Holland as agreed. So he really thought he was getting himself 2 builds, even though he left himself only 1 home center to build in.
And I imagine he'd be pressing hard for the draw if they'd gone through.
I think all of us know enough to not completely rely on John for really anything. He's been consistently unreliable, but I think he thought he was at least getting 1.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because actually the Matt's moves would have prevented Serbia, right?
Yeah, if Ed was smart here, he should have sent Moscow to Serbia just to, have something.
To Sev.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. Moscow to Sev.
I thought the thing for Ed to do here was force Romania up into Galicia, so that your most in diplomacy's tempo. Your most valuable unit on the board is almost always your most advanced unit, and you've got to protect that unit. And I thought the right thing for Ed to do here was support himself back into Galicia so it didn't get popped.
I agree, but at this point, I think he's probably had a similar strategy to me of, I don't want to stab until 1907. He was ready to stab me. He thought his growth was going to come at my expense. He thought he could hold most of what he had in the East long enough to get what he needed off me in the Northwest. He thought Matt was down enough that he probably wasn't going to be able to surpass him, because in these finals games, it's really just about that numbers. It's 1 in inches, and if you can just make sure you have that 1 more than the guy behind you, that's the goal. It's not about getting as many as possible. It's about getting 1 more than the guy in second place.
I really wish MAO had gone to English Channel here.
Yeah, me too. I was hoping that Matt would have bounced me again, so that I could have easily swung back if this happened. I thought there was a good chance this was happening. There's too much nonsense going on, but I'm like, all right, maybe I can get Holland here. Let's see if I can drag this alliance out one more round, get that much needed build and do something. But yeah. He told me what he was doing. I told him what I was doing. Neither one of us trusted each other enough to make it happen. It didn't happen. But at least in this round, me and Matt were finally able to say, okay, he's going to win this if we don't get together. There's no more reason for us to. I can talk to you directly now because Ed has stabbed me, and I'm not worried about you leaking anything. Ed knows I'm coming for him. Let's work out a plan. So now he destroys Tuscany, and we line up to make a play for Munich.
And what we 10-9.
That's effectively the only time Ed really stabbed you all game, isn't it? Denying you, not giving you Holland as promised. Isn't that the worst actual stab Ed did to you all game?
Out in the sunlight, yeah. I mean, Ed did a lot of diplomatic tomfoolery.
There was movement, wasn't there? That wasn't agreed.
Sure. Yeah, and understandable. You know, it benefited his game. But yeah, this was the first time he actively went against me.
Okay.
Masterful play.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would have done the same to him in the same position.
So yeah, a lot of movement away from this border there. Well, especially from you. Venice moves, but yeah, maybe Matt isn't quite so trusting about what you're going to do here.
Yep. So we worked this out. We wanted to de-escalate. I agree that, you know, I've done a lot of bad things to you, Matt, so I'll be the first one to move out of the waters. I didn't ask him what he was doing. I think he was foolish to have not moved Ionian Sea to Greece and defend that. But I guess he was more worried about it. There's a lot of this where people are more worried about me than I think they need to be. You know, earlier on, Jordan decided to defend against me rather than Ed. Here, Matt decides to defend against me rather than the obvious Turkey coming at him. So I don't agree with that, but I guess reputation has afforded me some boogeyman status. So I pull away. We intentionally don't bounce in places like Silesia and Holland so that we know his units are far enough away from Munich that we can actually make a good play on Munich, and he won't have enough armies to hold it. So, you know, Ed thought I was going to support myself into Holland and bounce. I didn't, and that's what opened up for Munich to be able to be taken.
I see. So you deliberately let him into Holland here?
Well, I deliberately didn't support myself in. I mean, if I got in, great, but I didn't want to bounce. That would have been the worst for me. Yeah. Because then he would have been in Kiel and he could have held Munich.
He doesn't take North Sea that turn, but takes it this turn. I suppose, yeah, you saw the gig was up, so you used it to try and cut Holland.
Yeah.
And he's lost Munich to Italy. At some point, because of the nature of this game with only 4 powers left and 3 of them are like really close via victory, you've got to be careful about this balance, right? Because at what point does Italy become the real threat again? If it goes too well, the attack on Germany.
Yeah, at this stage, I do feel like my window of winning this game is getting pretty small. So I'm actually not unhappy with the idea of Matt winning this. I probably would have, if not me, Matt. That was my mentality, and I was trying to make sure that, you know, I'm not really mad at Ed, but you know, if you're gonna shoot the devil in the back, you better kill him. So I'm just trying to. It feels like the right thing to do is to try to give somebody else a win in this situation. So that's what I was trying to do.
How was Ed's response to? Did Ed anticipate that you and Matt were going to cooperate at this point, and he was going to lose Munich? Did he kind of take that in stride, or was he kind of surprised to see you guys cooperate at that level?
Well, I mean, he didn't know it was happening before it happened. Matt had outright told him that that's what's going to happen, and I told him I'm going to be cutting regardless. I want to make sure that you don't take Belgium. So, you know, that's my plan no matter what. because otherwise I was vulnerable. He could have used Holland's support. We're into, he could have cut North Sea. So I had no choice. My hands were tied. Matt was going to be taking Munich, and Ed did not take it in stride. This was a meltdown moment for Ed. He had a big public chastising of everybody else, picking on him and all these different things, and what a jerk Matt is. And he calmed down within a few hours, but yeah, he had a bit of a meltdown for a while there.
Sounds like a feigned meltdown to me. If the guy who played the way he played up until this point was suddenly playing victim about losing Munich in this situation, I'd be rolling my eyes.
There were a couple moments in this game where people were having big public meltdowns of poor me from a position of board lead, and this was one of those moments. Ed is still board lead. There's no poor me here.
You do send another fleet up, but you've already lost North Sea.
Yeah, but I thought it was in a position to hold at this point for a while.
At this point, you're playing against the clock more than you're playing against Ed, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, so we enter the final 2 years. Holland goes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Matt, when he spoke to us, said this was Ed's pitch. He was threatening to throw the game to you by disbanding Holland and saying, you've got to give me Munich back or Ewok's going to win this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in my mind, this is my only chance of probably winning this game at this point. Is I need, and there was a lot of hostility between Matt and Ed at this moment. So I thought maybe there's a chance that I can go somewhere. And Ed's offering me once again Holland. That's been my, that's what he's been baiting me with all game. But he knew he could probably defend it pretty well, even with me, in Belgium. And I was hoping to take North Sea here and then take it in the fall by force because it's what's owed to me. And he just bounces and holds North Sea and make sure that's not possible. And this is where Matt would just walk out of Munich, which was crazy. That was absolutely crazy. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea. I would have helped up until this point. I was either going to get the game thrown to me or I was going to make sure Matt won. And he walks out of Munich, and that's, in my mind, that's where Ed.
You at least make him kick you out.
Yeah, something. But
even if you don't use Tyrolia to support it, you at least make him kick you out.
Yep. But he had the suckers play that he would get all of these Turkish dots, and Ed would support him in and just ignore the fact that that would probably give the game to Matt. He went for that. He walked out of Munich, and that probably gave Ed the chance he had to take it the rest of the way.
Matt does read that you're making a move on him here, but not the way you're planning to do it. He covers what he thinks is a convoy into Tuscany, whereas you support Spain into Wes, and you're likely positioning to take Tunis in the final year.
At this point, I'm just closing up ranks. I thought that was a very reasonable thing to do. I didn't have any real goals with that move to West at that point. I didn't know if Tunisia would have been possible or not, but I just wanted to make sure that I had no last minute runs at me, which are, always possible. So I thought that was a very reasonable thing to do. He was supposed to be out of Tyrrhenian Sea a long time ago, and he dragged his feet doing that. But I was never going to Tuscany. I thought that would have been a sucker's move. I would have had he could have defended against that for the most part. This is another one of those situations where people are more worried about me than other people, and I've given people no reason to be this worried about me. So yeah,
is this a battle of reputation?
It's 1909. Even if you'd wanted to send those units north, they weren't going to get anywhere in time. Matt had to know you were going to use those units against him. He had to know, because you had nothing else to do with those units other than waste them.
He's asked me to send them north, and I told him I wasn't going to. I've been very upfront about that. There was no point. Yeah, it would have been just, there wasn't enough time to do anything up there. So they're just going to
Yeah,
stay back.
exactly.
Defend my.
Hindsight's 2020, though. Can you imagine if you'd gone to Turanian Sea in West Med?
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been bad.
Ooh. Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I would have had
Meanwhile,
siege earlier.
this, according to John, is where Ed wins the game.
I agree.
The fact that he said, well, you've been telling Matt. I mean, you can, decide for yourselves how truthful he was being, but that he would help Matt win as long as he didn't try to force it against him, and he does here. And according to John, this is where Ed secures him as a helper in the final stages of the game.
Yeah, and John told us that after the fact that as well. He said, I was going to give the game to Matt if he would have done good by me, and this is where he lost it. But I understand not wanting to rely on a promise like that to determine the win. So I guess I don't blame Matt for not taking that at face value.
You get into to Ruhr. So there was a guess here. Ed had a guess over what to support, although Tyrolia supported him. Anyway.
Yeah, we could have taken out Munich here if we would have worked together, but at this point, Matt was still, I made a deal with Ed. He's going to honor it. I'm going to honor it. And then Ed doesn't honor it because of course not.
Well, he concentrates on taking Greece using Ionian to cut Aegean rather than bouncing you out of Tunis. Was there any discussion over that?
There was, yeah. I told him exactly what I was going to be doing. I told him it didn't make sense for me to go anywhere else. I've got to make my play. You're welcome to bounce me if you want to bounce me. You're welcome to go for Greece if you want to go for Greece, whatever you want to do. And he told me, it's like, okay, here's the deal. Take it. Just take it. But I want it back next year. You use that to build something that you can use against Germany. I agree.
Like what? What can you use against Germany?
You already walked back in Burgundy. You didn't any build you got for Tunis wasn't going to make it to the front by the end of the game.
No, yeah, there wasn't much I could use, but I mean, he just didn't want to make a big deal of it. I was taking it anyways. He wanted to take Greece. So the best he could do was, you have it, but you give it back. And I said, okay.
Leon, were you concerned about? I'm turning North American. Lyon. Were you worried about a move to Piedmont here? Is that why you didn't bounce to any?
I was worried if I went into Tyrrhenian, he would walk into Gulf of Lyon, and then my entire backside would be theirs for taking. That was just a door.
So 10-10-8. And you still need one from not German. Well, you only need one. You need one, whether it be from the origin.
Ed, the season we just left, fall 09, back it up, Chris. Ed stabbed Matt pretty badly here, didn't he?
Yeah, extremely badly.
Yeah.
I honestly thought at this point in the game, go back up to winner, given the way Ed had interacted with that eastern half of the board, and keep in mind what I said earlier back in, 1906, he played with Russia, then with Austria, then with Italy, then with Turkey, and he's gone back and forth to Italy and Turkey another 2 times. And that fall 09 move, not delivering on those promises in the East, I think that Matt Crow would have been perfectly justified at this point in the game, where we're at right now, in giving you Venice and Rome and Naples and giving you the win. Did that conversation happen at all?
I didn't ask for it. He didn't offer it. So not really. The closest we came was, if Tunisia is going to make a difference between me winning or not, are you willing to walk back out of Tunisia and let me keep it? But I never asked for charity. I didn't have that big of an interest to win in that way. If he was willing to offer it, I would have taken it, sure. But I'm happy to win this on the battlefield. I either get Munich or I don't get Munich. If I do, I win. If I don't, I don't. And let's see what happens. Let's roll the dice.
Did you consider trying to defend Tunis?
I didn't see the point. You know, I either win or lose this off of Munich. And if I betray Matt, then even if I get into Munich, he pushes me right out. So, you know, I'm going for the win. I either win it or I don't. At this point, second, third place didn't feel like that big of a deal. So yeah, I'm gonna roll my dice, see what happens. So I did see that this was most of this move that Ed does, I was trying to play against. I thought maybe he would move Munich to Ruhr and then pull it back afterwards, in which case maybe if I can slide things around, I can hold Munich. But he played it better than that. And this was just, I think there's nothing I could have done to counter this. I've gone over this a few times, and I think it was just.
I think the only counter here is this.
Yeah, John needed to be involved with this, and he just wasn't interested. He was pretty upset.
I didn't think that Moscow to St. Pete move was really necessary.
Well, I think he was worried that if I would have gotten London into North Sea, because he was moving all his fleets around, then I would have had a shot at Norway.
Okay, so it wasn't to defend St. Pete, it was defend Norway. That's fair. That's fair.
Yep.
Yeah, so this was where everything in the Discord was all congratulatory. There, then Ed had even posted a picture of his victory cigar, and I'm not sure I'd have been that. I'd have wanted it just signed, sealed, and delivered, because there is a throw that can still happen here. I guess can Matt still throw to you? No, I don't think he can. But John,
the only throw was if John wanted Matt to win, he could have thrown to him still,
and he clearly made that decision to not do that and allow Ed to win.
Letting you keep Tunis and Convoy and Marseille down to Naples couldn't have put you in the lead.
If I would have done things now, but by the time the fall comes around, it's too late.
Right. Fair.
Yeah, if we would have planned for that, then yes, that would have been a possibility.
Yeah. Well, I suppose then you're worried about Matt helping Ed back into Munich in the fall.
Right. That's why you let him into Tunis. Yeah.
Right.
And there we go. Yeah, was it impossible to hold? Yeah, Tyrolia doesn't even give a moral support in case of a misorder.
So this, I remember hearing. So Ed had actually picked up a phone and had a long conversation with actually both Matt and John this time. John, to make sure that John wasn't going to throw. Matt, just to give him, I don't know, false sense of security, or I'm not really sure what the point of that, maybe just to get read on whether he heard anything about John throwing. So yeah, that's a part of diplomacy I'm not used to, where people actually picking up the phone and having half-hour conversations to make sure they don't throw. That just shows how bad Ed really wanted this. I did have a conversation with Ed saying, if I can be second place, maybe I do like that idea. We have been allies this entire time. I would like the points for things like DBNI or whatever. I wouldn't hate it if you wanted to support John into Budapest. That would be something I would appreciate.
Oh, so it's your fault, Matt. Be mad at Craig.
I think he'd already had the talk with John about it, and was considering it, and I think that might have helped tip it over.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just wanted to do it anyways. I don't know.
It's really easy to talk somebody into doing something that is to their own benefit.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is the way it finished: 10, 9, 8, 7. But second place. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Considering the target that was on your back when you came into this tournament.
Yep, I got a lot. It's a lot better than I ever could have imagined would be allowed me to have. So I'm very happy with it.
You know, you got past two of the shiniest, most beautiful domes in the game of diplomacy, and then went on to better 5 of the 6 of the finalists.
So I got a trio of questions for you here, Greg.
Yeah, fire away.
Did Ed win this game or did you lose this game?
Ed absolutely won this game. I know there was a conversations to, who gave Ed the game. Ed won the game for himself. He was playing aggressively, but he was also covering his tracks where he could. He's going as far as he's picking up a phone and calling people to do it. He wanted it. He wanted it very bad. He made sure everybody knew his story. He played both sides of the map. He knew how to do the alliance play when he needed to. He hands down was the right person to win this.
At what point in the season's on the map? At what point do you think Ed won this game?
I'm going to say 1909 when he got Matt to walk out of Munich and to make that play for Romania. That lost my support of Matt winning the game. That lost John's support of winning the game for Matt to win the game. And in that moment, Ed just locked it in. But
and where do you, this is the last of my trio of questions. Where do you think you lost the opportunity to stop it?
My biggest missed opportunity was, I remember when that round came around for when Matt did walk out of Munich, my diplomacy that morning was lacking. I just had other things to do. I didn't clear my schedule for diplomacy to make sure that I was the last voice in his ear, to make sure that everything was okay. I should have been, especially that late in the game, the situation called for me to be more diplomatic and more involved and more engaged with what was happening and know exactly what was going on around the board. And I didn't. And because I didn't, these other deals end up materializing that, me as I'm a diplomatic player, I usually would be able to, sniff out and stop.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, we've had a look at the game. Let's have a little bit of fun now and have a look at some of the artwork and the way you've been depicted during the course of this game by the very talented Lady Razor. And this is how we started things all that time ago. You're wearing a very similar shirt now, and you're relaxing, sitting on your Iron Throne, resting on your laurels from your season 6 victory. I think you commented at the time that you actually look slightly more well-rested than you normally do in Lady Razor's depictions.
I do. He usually has a lot more bags under my eyes in the photos of me, so I'm doing good here.
You've had the close season off, and you're ready to roll. What are you drinking? What's your normal tipple?
Looks like a pina colada maybe. I believe this was the start of
right? In the ring.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to check this. Is Tarsia your father?
He is not.
He claims he's younger than you. Oh, right.
He is by a little bit.
By a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, one thing was right here. You did give Conk a bit of a kicking. Although he started it. He opened to English Channel and Wales, right? So what are you going to do?
I didn't notice he had that peace sign around his neck.
Yeah, CND, whereas Lex has been pointing out that you have Hitler eyes.
Yeah, Hitler eyes.
So you look slightly kinder in in your real life look. Well, I suppose it was. I suppose this depicts Spencer as some sort of puppet master behind the thing. Was there any attempt from him diplomatically to control the board early on?
Not really. This goes back to our origin story of, way back when I first started playing diplomacy. He was the one that first taught me, I guess, more of a cutthroat mannerism. I played a game with him and he stabbed me and I learned the ways of, all right, I need to have thicker skin and I need to not be so trusting of people. So that's going back about 8 years when I first encountered Spencer.
Taught you to stab.
Yep.
It didn't teach you to stab early enough, apparently. You mentioned that you were the devil earlier, and here you are, as if by magic, in this guise. You managed to turn that into an FG. You won him over. It actually worked out all right for Ed in the end, but yeah. I think we touched upon it very briefly earlier. Was there a battle of the perceptions, of the reputations here? Like, oh, we can get away with certain stuff with Ed because it's Ed and everyone loves Ed, but oh, we best keep our eye on that evil Ewok because he's champion and a menace and that's Hitlerized, the devil.
I'm sure we both used each other a bit for drawing attention towards the other person, but I mean we also knew that we could work together in this way. I think I mentioned that we played together Meteor Wars 2 for pretty much the entire game, so I mean we have a little bit of a shorthand that we can do with each other, and we know what we can get away with and what the other person is going to do, and there's going to be some pushing and nudging, but we knew we can handle it. So it was, and I know going back to season 2, in his game where he played with power for a lot of the game behind the scenes, how good of an ally he's willing to be. And I knew that in some situations he's willing to throw to his ally, or at least make sure that, one of the two wins. So that was in the back of my head as well. It's like, maybe, in honor of power, he'll throw to me like he did to power.
Not him, why did he make him sign this in blood, by the way? Just kicks.
Good point.
You're not depicted in this. You're off. You're off screen, if you like. You're not part of it. Yeah. But this feels like fairly accurate representation of what happened here. Trying to rally the troops, and he's the only one over the top. Well, I suppose Krill stuck around for a little bit there with that pesky army in Piedmont being the you say rocks in the rucksack or something. I can't remember what you said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just gun the poor fella down. Gunned him down. This amused me at the time because it did feel, as I said earlier, that you were like pushing Ed further and further east into dots that he might not be able to hold, which you could have all the safe ones. I mean,
Lady Razor sees me. He gets what's going on. This is, I guess I'm not being subtle enough about it. But yeah, I was absolutely trying to get closer to the sun.
So when you see these pieces of work from Lady Razor, you think, oh, shit, I'm being too obvious. Or, don't tell everyone. No, just I'm trying to...
Yeah, he's incredibly insightful as to what's actually going on in the game.
We're going to have to get Lady Razor on and have a chat with him. But
good idea.
they're just thoroughly entertaining. But he doesn't burn his wings in the end. And this one, all these are really mean to Ed. He's vindicated. But talk us through this one.
This one, Ed was, he was the lead horse all game. That's true, but I don't understand why he's the one that's getting, whipped, and he was doing pretty good for the entire game. It's a fantastic picture. I love it. I mean, this is I love John in this picture. This is one of my favorite ones of John on his little He's still in the race. He's still doesn't have a strong horse.
But as we've discussed already, a big factor in how the end of the game resolved. Does amuse me. You're all very warrior-like up there. But okay, so to finish, talk us through your fellow players here. You've spent some time chatting with the other 6, so it'd be good to get your thoughts on each of them in turn. So we'll start in the east, I suppose, and sort of work up to those that you've perhaps played more. You interacted with more in this game, perhaps. So let's start with someone you know very well, then, Spencer Tarsier.
Yeah, Spencer. That's he's my guy. He was the guy that I worked with for the longest time. He's my mentor, father figure. So he's an amazing player. He hasn't played a lot in the last few years. You wouldn't know it. I mean, there's absolutely no rust on him at all. The thing about Spencer is he's an incredible social player. He's very likable. He has lots of deep conversations with people. People get to know him. People enjoy him. Other than his scuffles with John, he's the kind of guy that you tend to trust. And then when he does finally stab you, he has such a personality that by nightfall, you're back to joking about him. He's pretty Teflon when it comes to that sort of stuff. So that's really his strength. He's got that capability of, I got you. Sorry, I stabbed you. So hey, you going fishing tonight? And the next thing you're fine with the guy. So that's really strength, and he's really good tactically as well.
Okay, Karthik.
So Karthik, I didn't get a lot of chance to talk to in this game. I mean, even though he was gone early, as a central power, I did expect him to be a little bit more engaged throughout the board. But Karthik I did get a chance to play with him at DBNI, and he's a fantastic player. And I think he's as good as he is now. I think he's only going to get better. He hasn't even peaked yet. He's a very social player for the most part, especially in the virtual community. He knows he's very analytical. He knows how to play tactics, and he knows how to work the meta very well, which is why he tends to do incredibly well in tournament settings, league settings, all these virtual games, is because he's able to build this reputation for himself where people know what they're getting from him. They know they can rely on him. And that affords him the ability to make deals that other people might not be able to make because they don't have that same type of consistency. And he's also got this ability to be resilient so that if he does get in these bad situations, he knows how to make himself valuable so that people keep him around. He makes for a very good janissary. It didn't work out in this game. I think people were just happy to start pushing people out, but he's a great player.
Yeah, I had him as a janissary in the prelims, but didn't know it was him at the time. So I totally agree on that janissary front. Yeah. Let's go with the other person who was eliminated then, Jordan.
I mean, Jordan is the best diplomacy player I've ever played against. I mean, he's just the absolute. He's good at strategy. He's good at psychology. He's good at. He's charismatic. He's the entire package. This is why he's top of the Nexus rankings. He's top of play diplomacy. He just seems to have a little bit of. He hasn't quite figured out the puzzle for finals games. My opinion is it's just that his sheep's clothing isn't very convincing. He doesn't know how to lay low in the beginning. He comes out. He's all game, and in these finals games, people get spooked a little bit more easier than others. They know what they want. They're incredibly hungry, and anybody that looks like they're that big of a threat, people tend to jump on. I think in most of Jordan's games, he gets pounced on pretty early, but as soon as he figures that out, he's winning all of the finals games. He's just incredible player.
He does the first thing though, which is keep getting there.
Yeah. He'll get in every one that he tries to.
Okay. The other witch, John Anderson.
John is the maverick of the group. It's so hard to get inside of his mind, know what he's really going for. Does he even have a plan? What is the plan? I know we joked, you guys joked in his interview, just how much influence he had on the entire game, and everybody laughed a little bit. No, he had a lot of influence on a lot of different things. With his eccentric play, it had such ripple effects onto what happened. So he really had a giant impact on what ended up happening, whether Matt was able to win or not, all these things. John had his fingers into all of that, whether it was intentional or not, or whether it was by design. I don't know. I cannot get inside this guy's mind, but he's such a fun guy. Like, he's just enjoyable to talk to.
Well, people refer to John as a transactional type of player, and this is how you were described during season 6 by the Diplomats. What do you see any similarities in the way that you approach the game?
Me and John are definitely very different people. I don't know if he's I don't know if I'd go as far as to call him transactional, but he's incredibly good at, he should have been kicked out a long time ago in the position he was in, but he knows how to work people against each other to create these little situations for himself. And that's exactly what he did with, he's telling us to go attack Matt while he's behind the scenes helping Matt attack us. And he's getting Ed and Matt against each other and all these different little things. I think he struggled a bit in the first couple of years where he was adamant against Spencer, but when he got into that end, he found ways he got a lot bigger than anybody would ever thought he would have. That was incredibly impressive.
Yeah, got 7-7 to finish, isn't
yep.
There? Matt Krill.
Matt Krill, I find Matt to be the closest in play style to me out of anybody else in the game. We're both very analytical. We're both very, we are transactional. We're both very slow and steady, wins the race. We have a plan. In the beginning of the game, that was great. We bonded up over a lot of different things, and we were able to see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. And then as the game went on, it was very frustrating playing somebody like me. It was a whole lot of rock, paper, scissors, rock, paper, scissors. Nowhere. I think we had that same kind of idea. Like, what we want is we want the other person to get in a fight with Ed or somebody, and then we can swoop in and we can take that, and you go do it now. And we just end up going
nowhere. That's why you were expected to get bounced out of North Africa that second time.
Yeah.
And your erstwhile ally and our champion Ed Sullivan.
Yeah, Ed is the right guy to win this. He did absolutely everything right. He was the right amount of hungry, but wasn't completely overt about it. He was talking to absolutely everybody in the game constantly. He was so good at, like, you saw, especially early on when he was in positions where we're like, everybody's jumping on him. We think he's going to die now. The people who like him, like, okay, I'm going to throw in a center for you. I'm going to throw in a center for you. Next thing you know, he's got 3 builds rather than two destroys. Like, so good at cultivating all these different situations around the board and then merging them together in a way that benefited him. It was near flawless. I was so impressed in that. And then at the end, when he's calling people up to make sure that he gets across the finish line, nobody's working as hard as that.
That is still miffed. And finally, the French player, I can't remember his name. Canadian fella. What do you make of? How would you describe Ewok?
Way overhyped. Not a big deal at all.
The game's over.
He's a flash in the pan. I hope that guy goes away and we never see him again.
You said you might take a little break from playing press, but that you might go and dip your toe into the face-to-face waters.
Yep, I'm hoping to do Cascadia. I say this all the time, I'm taking a break, so hopefully this actually happens this time. I wasn't planning on playing this season. Riaz encouraged me to come in for the semis, and at the time I was gearing up for the DBNIs. I'm like, okay, I'll just do some warm up during this game. Next thing I know, I'm all the way to the finals. So I hope this time I can actually take some downtime. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Cascadia. I hope I'm going to be able to make that work. It should be a fun time. So if anybody's thinking about coming, come so I can meet you.
Amazing. Well, I don't think I'll be able to make it across, but I'll be sitting at home very jealously, and we'll try and catch up on those games. Enjoy that experience. I hope you find similar success in that as you do in the extended deadline world. And well done on making the final again and finishing second. It's not to be sniffed at. And thank you very much indeed for your time today, and indeed the other day in talking to Eric and myself.
Thank you. I'm going to say I think my biggest accomplishment from this entire season is that I was the one that nominated Eric to become the commentator for the Diplomats, and that trickled into you. So I feel part of making you guys happen. I think you guys have been an absolute tremendous addition to this season. I hope we get to see you guys more in future seasons. You guys have done an absolutely fantastic job.
Well, thank you very much indeed. So I've got you to blame. It's been a bit of a sitcom with me and Eric. But well, yeah, I'm glad you've enjoyed our stumbling through the games. It's been great to hear things from you and the other players' perspectives to see just how wrong we were, but what the diplomacy was behind the scenes. So, very insightful. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
All right, have a good day.